Hey, what's going on guys? John here, and today I wanted to do a video review for this racing simulator stand. In this video, I'm going to walk you through some of the assembly steps, I'll show you the instruction manual, and then I'll walk you through my entire setup as well, and just give you some idea of what to expect with this. So I'm actually here in a finished space inside my garage. We actually have a very, very large garage. You can see this is basically a 2-bay garage here. This is actually a 3rd bay that we converted into a gym space. And over time, I've started adding some equipment in here. I had a spare PC laying around, so I'll kind of get into some of that in a minute, but basically I have a perfect setup here for doing a racing sim setup. So I thought, why not get this frame and really, get something really nice set up to be able to do this. So let me kind of walk you through the actual frame itself. Basically, in terms of assembly, you have more or less just bolts that go into these nuts. You have washers that are included with them. Everything came in a bag, and it was pretty specific in the instructions. It really just goes over all the parts that are included. You have nice picture diagrams of everything, and then it just shows you step by step each piece as you're assembling everything. The majority of the entire frame actually uses mostly the same bolts and washers. So as you're going through, you're basically connecting this piece to this. You then have a top piece that then connects here on these bolts. This one was a little bit tough, so I don't recommend tightening everything as you assemble this on one side completely. Otherwise, you'll have a little bit of a tough time here. You may even need a second person to kind of pull this in to align all the holes. And once you do that, you'll be pretty much good to go. You also have the option of either left or right mounting for your shifter. This doesn't have any particular adjustability in terms of like lowering or raising it, but I found that the height with the seat mounted and everything is actually pretty good. I do have the Logitech shifter here, and this is actually the Logitech G920. I had no issues mounting this. You have a plate here that goes across, and this actually has 3 mounting increments. So you can see here there's 1, 2, 3 holes, so you can move this up or down. I'm probably going to be raising this 1 increment to kind of bring the steering wheel down. It'll bring it down probably about maybe an inch to 1/4 of an inch, depending on how much leverage we get there. You also have an additional notch here, so you can actually bring this entire plate down, but there's multiple plates for all of this, so this will even disconnect as needed. There's 2 screw holes that you have here that will mount into the G920, but I actually currently just have it mounted with these brackets here, and it's holding up just fine. As you can see, I can put some pressure on this and it's not going to come off. For all the wires with the G920 in this particular case, I was able to run them through the back, right off the back of the plate. And then I just took this little piece here to kind of mount all this together. I do wish there was a little bit better, maybe somewhere to do wire management, but ultimately the way I have it set up now, it's not really getting in the way. And with this particular setup, I have plenty of leeway here. You can see my power is actually going all the way up there, and then I'm just using a front USB port here. And I've got this actually pretty far away from the TV. Now, in terms of some of the other options here, you have obviously your pedal mounting. Similarly here, this pretty much has a couple options. Again, you could lower or raise this. I actually thought this was a pretty good height. I pretty much put the pedals right in the center, and then you actually have 4 screw holes that go all throughout. In fact, I think there's 6. There's 1, 2, 3, and then you have, again, similarly 1, 2, 3, or at least 2 that are on the bottom when I did this. I recommend actually twisting the frame, kind of just raising it up as you mount this and doing this first before you put the seat on or anything else, and that way this is going to be a lot easier for you. They do make a model of this where the seat is actually included. Now, something to keep in mind with this is I actually thought when I was first setting this all up, I had this, this is actually an office chair that's really like a gaming chair or racing chair. But I figured, hey, I'm not really using that chair that much. It was like a spare one we had. Typically, if we do LAN parties and things like that, we would have extra people using this chair, but it really was like this brand new chair just sitting here not really getting utilized. And I figured, hey, I'll use that with a sim racing setup. Now, I ran into a problem because typically here you have about 9 inches that span across here. That's basically the minimum length that you're going to be utilizing, whereas the holes on this are actually only spaced, as you can see with the original chair, about 6 inches apart. So if you're going to be using an office chair with this frame, you will need to get a special adapter. There's a company called Trax Racing that actually makes one. So you could get something like that if you wanted to be able to utilize an office chair, and that will work with this existing frame setup. So I'm currently waiting for that. For the moment, I've just been actually placing the chair on this and just being very careful when I do use it. I'm not like pushing back or anything like that or being aggressive while using it, and it's working just fine. Beyond that, you have your typical standard piece here. You can actually raise this up, so this actually has options to go higher or lower, and then normally this is going to work with like a rail seat, so a car seat or a sim racing specific chair. And typically most of those, the advantage you're going to get is you'll have a bar that's going to come across the front of the seat just like you would with a typical car seat, and you could push that and slide the chair forward and back just like you would in an actual car. Otherwise, I'm very happy with this frame. The instructions were very clear. They really walked you through everything. It only took me probably about 30 minutes to assemble. Nothing was missing, and there were plenty of extra bolts to actually mount all of my hardware, like my shifter and steering wheel and pedals. So it does come with all of that. Whereas if you order these, from Logitech, you're not actually going to, you're not going to have to buy those screws extra, right? It's not going to come with those, whereas the mount actually does. So overall, very, very happy with this frame. I think if you're looking for something that's going to be really sturdy, very easy to move around, I have a situation here where we're using this again as a gym space, and I could easily just slide this out of the way, move it over here, and still use this entire area for like my workout space. I just kind of move things around. Now, in terms of the setup here, I did want to show I have a keyboard up here. I've got kind of a home theater style computer case, and then I have this hooked up to a receiver which then goes into the TV. I would probably recommend, if I was to change anything in this space, I would have almost liked the TV to be a little bit lower, because normally when you're driving a car, it's like my peripheral is more looking at where my receiver is, and because of the way I have this set up, I'm more staring up. So when you do set something like this up, obviously you may want to consider the fact of the height. It's not really a big deal, but it would be a little bit more realistic if it was lower. Another option to maybe look at, and I don't believe this particular frame necessarily has that option, but there may be some add-on tools that the company makes where you could actually mount a monitor arm, and you could do like a triple monitor setup that's like right in front of the frame. So depending on how complex you want your setup to be, you have some options there, but overall I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I like the fact that I can easily move this. You do have adjustable feet as well that go all along the entire base, so you can adjust those depending on what you're looking for. And overall, I think it's a great frame. Anyway, hopefully you found this video review helpful, and I'll talk to you later.